Hello and welcome to another episode of the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review Podcast. This is episode 34. On this show, we strive to showcase gun reviews, gear, and anything else a gun enthusiast may be looking for. We strive to evaluate products from an unbiased and honest perspective. I'm your host, Ryan Cross from the Firearms Radio Network, your source for broadcasts for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. Bandwidth for this episode is brought to you by Action Target. Today I have with me another repeat listener, and he's been on the show once before. Welcome, Chad Wallace.
Hello.
Hey, Chad, and thanks for joining me again.
No problem.
So, how was your week? What'd you do in guns?
Well, this week, last Saturday, I went to a benefit shooting match for the local child abuse center here where I live. They have it every year. It's lots of fun. It's kind of a combination between USPSA and Speed Steel. And so they kind of change it up on what the stages are like. It benefits a good cause. They always seem to have lots of prizes. I think there were a couple guns on the prize table. Then they have raffles you can buy tickets for and put in. I think they had another 5 or 6 more guns on the raffles. So it was a lot of fun. Really enjoy this match. I go every year for the last, I think, 14 years.
What'd you shoot with?
I actually shot with, I have an EAA Witness in 9mm, and that's what I shot it with this year. I think I shot it with the same gun last year. Sometimes, previous years, I shot a 1911 in it most of the time. I think I shot a Glock in it a couple years.
Yeah, kind of hard to go wrong. The last one I shot, I actually I messed with my trigger connector, which ended up costing me some points because it was like a ghost trigger or a rocket trigger. It's one of those 3.5-pound connectors, and it must have got some dirt in it. But I had some hang fire problems that caused me to drop quite a lot of hits. So I should have just kept with my bone stock 19. But what are you gonna do?
Exactly. Just figure out if you can find the problem and keep shooting it.
Yeah. Well, I've been doing a lot of long distance shooting, reloading, kind of load development. Not long distance, but just bolt action rifle load development for 22 250, 308, and 300 Winchester Magnum. In fact, one of the products I'll be reviewing on this episode is what I have been using to greatly improve my reloads, their consistency, and playing with the seating depth and getting much tighter groups. So I'll be talking about that in my review. Other than that, I went to Seattle and didn't have to shoot anybody, so that's good. That's always a win. You might have heard in the news that there was a school shooting at the university, Seattle Pacific University, so I was a little wary of traveling that way. Was definitely carrying, but yeah. So then I had an interesting thought to myself that if I had to defend myself and I shot somebody, the temptation to go up to them and say, "Hey, I'm the host of the Gun and Gear Review podcast, and I would like to review the federal hydroshocks I just shot you with on a scale from 0.5 to 10. How much does it hurt?"
I don't think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Pretty funny, but
he'd be like, "Oh, 8.5. Like, man.
If he didn't answer, I guess it would be a 10.
Yeah, right? Silence is a 10.
Yeah.
Anyway, into the announcements. We're still doing that Raid Tech giveaway, and I've announced 2 winners, and I have another winner to announce this week. And his name is, drumroll, Richard Orozco, and he won the Beretta 92 a Beretta 92 FS ammo counter or round digital counter. So congratulations, Richard, and I'll be getting that out in the mail to you. So if you're, I'm gonna just keep this contest rolling until I can give away all these Raid Tech products that I have. You might have noticed that I'm still holding on to the AR-15 model. I'm kind of trying to save the best for last, hoping to get some of these extra Beretta 92 models out the door. Next week I'll be announcing the AR-15 winner. I'm waiting to hear back on a couple entrants that didn't leave me. Well, they said they left a review, but they didn't. So that was kind of a bummer. So I'm waiting for them to get back to me and say, hey, just leave a review and you can still get an entrant into the contest. Yeah, so that's the... Oh, I'm sorry, there's one more contest winner actually this week. I thought there's another person that was interested in the Beretta 92 one, so it was a tie. I'll have to edit this out because I'm not seeing their email right off the bat, or I'll just announce them next week. That works too. So 2 winners next week I'll announce. So if you're interested in potentially winning a Raid Tech digital counter for your AR-15 or Beretta 92 FS, as those are the only 2 I have left, you have to leave me an iTunes review and leave this podcast an iTunes review. And then you have to email me at cross@firearmsradio.tv with your username, real name, and preferably your address so I can just ship it right to you. And then your preferred choice in the Raid Tech model, the 1911, or I'm sorry, that was already given away last week, the AR-15 or the Beretta 92 FS. And I am still always looking for listeners that would like to join in the podcast. So if you want to come on to the show and review, talk about a product that you want to review, I would encourage you to do so and contact me. Or you can send an email to podcast@firearmsinsider.tv. So let's get straight into the new product spotlight. And it's a long-range bolt-action rifle from Nosler. It's actually, Nosler produces, components and reloading equipment. So to see an actual, or projectile, I should say ammunition, but they actually have produced their own rifle. It's called the M48 Patriot, and it is a sweet-looking rifle. The MSRP on it, I'll let you know right off the bat, and it's a little higher than you may have in your wallet right now. It's $1,695, but with that price, you get a rifle that you really don't have to do a whole lot to increase the performance. Everything's kind of already been done for you. So the stock is a featherweight synthetic stock that's already been free-floated and bedded, and there's a Cerakoting all-weather finish on the barrel and on the action and stuff. There's also the barrel is a match grade stainless barrel. Then the stock, it's glass and aluminum pillar bedded. It's got a hinged floor plate, so you will have to, if you're interested in getting a drop bottom metal, you'll have to replace the hinged floor plate metal. It's got a 2-position rocker safety, a crisp hand-tuned trigger pull, and so the poundage on that trigger pull, where was that? I'll get back to that. It's got the guaranteed MOA accuracy right out of the box with the prescribed Nosler ammunition. And there's more accessories available for the rifle, like a custom case, and that's got cutouts in the foam for like scopes and slings and your ammunition boxes and all that. So the stock, we'll just start from the back all the way to the front. So the stock's got a 1-inch recoil pad and with a straight design to help reduce felt recoil. So it's not like an M40 or any of those like those hand hook designs. So it's pretty much a sporter style stock. It's got a shadow line cheek piece, providing a consistent and comfortable cheek weld. And then moving forward, it's got the floor plates aluminum, so that help reducing the weight. Let's see, the calibers that are available. It's got a number of varmint calibers and big game calibers. So 22 250, 243 Winchester, 260 Remington, 6.5 by 284 Norma, the new 26 Nosler, which we will talk about right after this rifle, the 270 Winchester, 270 Winchester short mag, 7mm or 7.08, the 280 Ackley improved 7mm Remington mag, 308 Winchester, 30-06 Springfield, 300 Winchester short magnum, 300 Win mag, 325 Winchester short magnum, 338 Win mag, and 35 Whalen. A lot of calibers to choose from. Some short, some long action, and the barrel contours actually differ per caliber. So some have a sporter contour, some have a magnum contour. The barrel length on all of those is 24 inches. So it's not it's kind of in the middle. It's not a real snubby rifle, but it's not a standard long 26, 28-inch barrel. The weight on all of them varies. It's between 6.75 pounds and 7.5 pounds for the larger, heavier calibers. And the twist weight is also different per caliber, so you'd have to look that up on their website. I mean, for say 308, you're looking at 1 in 10 twist, so that's kind of a fairly, I think they call that the tactical twist rate as far as loading heavier bullets. The 22 250 is a 1 in 9 twist rate, so that's faster, so you can load heavier bullets than that as well. So it seems like in developing this rifle, Nosler, being that they make bullets, they really designed this rifle to be kind of a reloader's kind of dream, as far as if you're shooting 22 250 and you want to shoot the real fatter, heavier bullets, or I'm sorry, the longer, heavier bullets, the twist rate is going to be fast enough to stabilize those. So they're guaranteeing MOA accuracy, and it's contoured to accept any two-piece scope base that would otherwise fit a Remington Model 700. In fact, this looks a lot like a Remington 700. So I think that's pretty cool. I think you should, if you're interested in anteing up for a nice, precise rifle, maybe in a caliber that's something that's a little bit different than what you'd find on the shelf, like the 26 Nosler that just came out. This should be the platform for you to take a look at. What do you think, Jad?
I actually really like the rifle. I think it has really good looks. I can say that. I liked how they made it so that the standard bases for a Remington 700 will fit on it. That's just really neat. I did notice that if you order it in the 26 Nosler, it is a 26-inch barrel. I think that's probably so they can get a little extra velocity out of that fast-moving cartridge. But I didn't notice anywhere in there. All I could find on the trigger was it says finely tuned trigger. It didn't actually. I couldn't find a trigger pull weight on it. But I'm sure coming from Nosler, they pretty much everything they make is good stuff. So it's probably a really nice trigger off the floor.
Yeah, I don't, and it doesn't say that if it's adjustable, but yeah, I would assume that it's in a very crisp range. This rifle just kind of came out. They did an article in it. I was just reading it, I think, in Guns and Ammo. It is high priced, especially if you're really dead set on putting bottom metal in it and having to kind of redo that. They don't say whether Remington 700 BDL drop bottom metal will fit in there. So that has a lot to do with the stock too, as far as the dimension of the pillar bedding. If you want like an M5 profile drop metal in there, it might be a little bit too big dimensionally, and so you're actually, when you're inletting the stock and you're trimming some of that aluminum pillar bedding or aluminum bedding, you might actually be inletting through it, which isn't good. So you'd have to probably follow up on that and see what they would recommend. But it's a lot for a rifle, and you could build a Remington 700, for at least 300 or 400 less than that, and have a comparable setup, depending on what stock you go with. I mean, definitely, I think there's. I don't know. I hope you're not just paying for the Nosler name, but they make some great reloading components and some great ammunition. So at least hopefully they send you a free box of ammo when you buy this gun. That would be sweet.
Everything I've read on the Nosler rifles, they're just kind of like a rifle was built a long time ago, kind of really nice, not hand fitted probably, but still almost looks like it was. They're just a piece of artwork also. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think this is the first rifle they came out with. They make some other bolt actions, I believe.
Yeah, but this is kind of, you don't see a whole lot of them.
No.
So they're trying to hit the commercial market running. That stock actually looks a lot like a Bell & Carlson. I forget which model. But it's got like a really light tan with black spider webbing.
And it's a nice looking stock. I really like the looks of the stock on that rifle.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a good varminting gun. I can tell that right off the bat.
Yeah, and it looks like with some of the offerings they have, it'd make a decent long range hunting rifle too, with some of the 300 Win Mag and rifle calibers like that.
Yeah, definitely. So check that out. Go to www.nosler.com/m48-patriot. So next we're going to talk about actually is the 26 Nosler, which is one of the cartridges that the Patriot can be chambered for. And that's, like Chad mentioned, that I missed. That one's actually 26 inches long in the barrel. So the 26 Nosler is a 6.5 millimeter bullet, and it's supposed to be the new hotness as far as flat shooting. I read that it was supposed to be flat out to, was it like 415 yards? Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty flat and fast out to that. So it's, let's see, it's based on it's a non-belted 6.5 millimeter centerfire rifle cartridge. It's got a maximum overall length of 3.34 inches, and it functions in a standard 30-06 length action. So it's capable of firing a 130 grain bullet at a muzzle velocity of 3,400 feet. And if you're not really into load development or speeds of bullets and those numbers seem arbitrary to you, I'll just tell you that that's really fast. Anything past 3,000 feet per second is cooking, and is going to have better capabilities for bucking the wind and not dropping at extended distances. So that's really cooking. In 130 grains, that's a pretty decent weight. I mean, it's just barely heavier than like an AK-47 bullet, a 7.62 by 39. I think those are like 123 grain. So it's got a case capacity of 93 grains. They test that out with water. And so they're saying that it outperforms the 264 Win Mag by over 200 feet per second with a 130 grain bullet. Zeroed at 350 yards, the 26 Nosler has a maximum point-blank range of 415 yards. So meaning if you zero it around 350 yards, it'll stay pretty much zeroed up to 415. And if you load it with 129 grain projectiles, it retains as much velocity at 400 yards as the 260 Remington produces at the muzzle. So of course at the muzzle and 400 yards, those should be two different velocities, and they're boasting that it's got just as much velocity at that range than the 260 has at the muzzle. So it's pretty cooking. And they're, of course, being from Nosler, you don't have to wait around for bullet companies to start making projectiles for it. They're already making like an AccuBond for it. AccuBond, I actually have one right here. This is a 308 AccuBond and 180 grain. It's got a little white tip. Really good hunting bullet. So we're looking at at 400 yards, the foot-pound energy of 2,085 foot-pounds, and at the muzzle, that's 3,400 foot-pounds. So if you stack that up against, just look at the foot-pounds at 400 yards, because that'll be the typical distance that maybe you shoot a deer, probably a little bit farther than most people shoot their deer. But the 30-06 Springfield, which is the classic all-American deer hunting cartridge or white-tailed deer cartridge, has 1,725 foot-pounds of energy at 400 yards. The 26 Nosler has 2,085 foot-pounds. So you're looking at over 300 foot-pounds difference of energy at the same distance. So you might think, well, what do I need this extra cartridge for? 30-06 can, smoke a deer at that range. Yeah, but the 26 Nosler is definitely making more efficiency out of its velocity. And I mean, if that was like an elk, and a little bit further, I mean, you're dealing with a bullet that's still got enough kinetic energy to deliver, terminal effects to your target. So it's pretty cool. If you go to the website, it's actually got a dedicated website from Nosler. So www.26nosler.com, and they've got some trajectory comparisons. Of course, they set their 0 to 350 yards, which is kind of odd. That's a really long 0. But looking at the range and the drop. See, I can't tell if this is in inches or not. I'm assuming it's in inches. So at 1,000 yards, we're looking at 168.68 inches versus the 30. I'm not going to finish reading that because I can't make sense of it. It's kind of goofy. So anyway, it's a pretty sweet cartridge, and Nosler isn't the only rifle manufacturer that's making things chambered in 26. Remington, Winchester, Weatherby, Browning, Hoa, Kimber, Savage, Marlin, Tikka, Ruger, Seiko, and Thompson Center are all now chambering rifles in the 26 Nosler. So make sure you if you're interested in that, if you're interested in reloading, or just getting a factory cartridge that's got better performance than something you might shooting now, then give the 26 Nosler a good look. So that being said, let's go into the next item, which I am very excited to tell you guys about. If you guys have ever shopped for optics, I guess this is kind of a long-range rifle episode, or a precision rifle episode. If you've shopped for optics, you kind of figured out what price points are and what optics are just so spendy that unless you're dedicating, finances specifically for this hobby, you can just never afford a certain brand. And when it comes to optics, one of those brands is Nightforce. Nightforce makes really stinking good optics, but they're really expensive. So that's why a lot of people tend to migrate toward Vortex, which I love, because it's got kind of debatable on how comparable they are, but most people that say, man, Vortex is just as good as Nightforce, but like up to a 3/4 less or half the price. Well, Nightforce has released a new optic that's made to kind of take back some of that market share from the more of a budget level of a price point. And so it's called the SHV rifle scope, and that stands for shooter, hunter, and varmint or varminter. And so it's a 4-14 by 56, and it's got two reticles. It's got they call it the IHR reticle, and I think that acronym stands for International Hunter or Hunting Reticle. It's pretty much it's a floating crosshair that has a post on the left, right, and bottom, but it's pretty much floating. There's not really any subtensions, and then they have the MOAR reticle, which is like internet speak for more. And so that's got 1 MOA elevation and windage markings, and kind of a more accurate range finding, subtensions and hold-offs. And they've got that on a couple other their scopes too. So if you're into using your reticle more for estimating yardage and holding off for wind and stuff, you might want this reticle instead. So the SHV scope is illuminated. So you do get that benefit. So basically, Nightforce said that one of their most difficult challenges that they've faced when building a rifle scope is to get it within reach of a wider range of hunters and shooters who don't need like the overbuilt characteristics of all their existing rifles or existing rifle scopes, like in their NXS series, which are originally created to withstand like combat conditions. So a lot of people write into Nightforce and they say, how come your rifle scopes aren't cheap? Like, how come you don't make a cheap scope? And so their response is that Nightforce scopes will never be cheap because the quality materials, precise tolerances, the workmanship, and the need to stand up to a lifetime of recoil make it physically impossible to build a scope this good that's cheap. But they thought perhaps they could not cut corners, but make a couple production adjustments to make one that's a little bit more affordable. So by limiting some options, offering some simpler controls, and a little bit less complex manufacturing processes, they're able to make a scope a little bit faster and cheaper, and so thus bring that value to you, the consumer. So you might be asking yourself, well, okay, how cheap is it? So we're looking at a MSRP of, I just had it up, I think it was under $1,000. It was $900. They don't list it on their website. Dang it.
Yeah, I couldn't find it on their website either. I did do a quick search.
It's on eurooptic.com. It's listed on there already, and they've got it listed at $975. So let's see, my browser's a little slow. So the scope weight is 26.9 ounces. It's got parallax adjustment, so between 25 meters to infinity. The overall length of the scope is 14.8 inches. Like I said, the magnification range is 4 to 14. I don't know why Euro Optics says 4 to 16. That might be just like a default setting. 4 to 14 is a little bit unusual. The diameter of the objective is 56 millimeters, and the tube size is 30 millimeters, so you have to make sure that the rings that you get are 30 mm. And the turret adjustments are in quarter MOA, and the field of view at 100 meters is just shy of 25 inches. Oh, I'm sorry, feet. 25 feet. That'd be pretty narrow. The eye relief is between 3.14 inches and 3.3.5 inches. They're listing it as a non-illuminated reticle. However, on the website, I did read that the MOAR reticle did have center illumination. So I guess maybe the illumination. There's two models. There's an illuminated and a non-illuminated model, and I think it has to do with your preference in the reticle. I'm not a Night Force guy, so I'm doing the best I can. So you're still coming in a little bit higher than a Vortex scope in about the same range like a Viper PST in 4 to 16 by 50. That's what I have on my 308 right now. I think that was between about 700, somewhere in there, 700 and 800. But Night Force does make a wonderful scope, built like a tank, and they have a really good warranty as well. So if you're interested in getting, I'd say, an entry-level Night Force scope finally that doesn't have too many bells and whistles, maybe you're not, a serious long-range shooter where you need so much fine adjustment and kind of overbuilt features, this would be definitely the scope for you to look into. So you can check that out at nightforceoptics.com/SHV.
I would like this scope better if it had a first focal plane reticle, but I guess that's probably part of the price difference in their way of cutting cost, because most first focal plane reticle scopes are even more money.
Yeah, almost about an extra $150, $200, at least on Vortex models.
Right.
First focal plane is getting pretty popular, and I like that because sometimes when you don't have your scope zeroed all the way in, your subtensions actually, your holdovers aren't true. So if you've got a second focal plane and you're using your MOA dashes, you've got to be zoomed in all the way in order for those to be correct. Whereas the first focal plane, whether you're zoomed out to 3 or 4 or 2.5 all the way to 10, those increments stay true. So it's kind of nice, especially if you're, for instance, varmint hunting and you're zooming out. You've got like a fast focus lever on your magnification ring, so you can zoom out and kind of use it as a spotting scope in that immediate area, and then zoom in, and so you're not having to take your eye off the scope or whatnot, or pull up your binoculars. And if you have to take a shot at closer range at a lower magnification, that's easier to do, without a big fat reticle. It gets a lot finer when you zoom out, which at first I was like, wow, my eyes aren't that great, maybe I need to change my prescription, but I got used to it and I really like the fineness of the reticle. So yeah, have you ever looked through a Night Force scope, Chad, or played with one of the store?
I've looked through one or two of them. I've never actually shot a rifle behind one. They're phenomenal though when you look through them with the glass they have and everything. It's just, it's probably one of the two best scopes I've probably ever looked through. Though, yeah, of course, they were higher priced ones, but I'm guessing the glass is pretty similar on this one.
Yeah. Well, I would love to actually mount these on one of my rifles and do a more in-depth review. So, Night Force, you can expect an email from our product review manager, because I'm very interested in seeing how this scope stacks up to some of the competition.
When you're done checking it out, you can send it to me, and I'll stick it on my M1A and see how it works on there.
Yeah, you gotta test it with semi-auto for sure.
Exactly.
So let's get right into the sponsor product. If you go to Action Target's website, and if you would like to go to the firearmsinsider.tv website and click on the Action Target banner so we can get some track back off that. You can also go to firearmsinsider.tv/Action Target, and that'll link you right to the Action Target page. Use the promo code Radio15 to get 15% off your order, which is a pretty big deal when you're looking to get some nice high quality steel that you just can't beat. Get an extra 15% off, and I mean that's an offer you can't refuse right there. So this week, I'm actually gonna bring up the PT Tatanka. And Tatanka is if you're familiar with Gone with the Wind, oh no, sorry, Dances with Wolves, got my old movies mixed up. Dances with Wolves, Tatanka is the Indian word for buffalo. So it's actually, like the name implies, it's a steel silhouette of a buffalo, and it sits on a stand similar to some of their other like Evil Roy stands, and it's actually got a hostage plate on the inside. So there's a cutout in the head of the buffalo, and then there's a cutout in the rear end of the buffalo, the business end of the buffalo. So there's a plate that sits that's hinged, and so when you engage the plate, whether it's on the head or the butt, it actually will react and swing to the other hole. So not only do you have a AR-550 armor steel for the whole buffalo shape, but you can actually aim for the hole and hit that steel, and it'll rock back and forth. So it gives you a little bit more excitement to your shooting, especially, I'm guessing, with the buffalo, a little bit more like Wild West cowboy themed. So if you're running a single action cowboy shooting club, or you're a member of it, this kind of target could add a little bit of flair to a stage. So instead of just hitting, the buffalo steel, which, pretty easy to do, maybe you've got to hit, the steel, make it go back and forth a couple times. Definitely a lot of fun. The price is only $325. Don't forget the discount code for Radio15. And you've got a high quality steel target. The height, it's recommended to use a 3-foot stand, but you can use a 4-foot stand. Weighs only 65 pounds. The reactive plate, which is painted green, it's a 6-inch diameter, and the buffalo shape is about 26 inches by 22 inches. The steel grade is 3/8 inch AR-550 armor steel. The handgun shooting distance is 10 plus yards, and the rifle shooting distance is 100 plus yards using ammunition below 3,000 feet per second. So no taking a whack at this with your 26 Nosler for quite a distance. So when you go to Action Target's website, you can actually select the stand height. You can choose a 1-foot tall stand if you'd like, or 2-foot or 3-foot. Pretty sweet target. I like their reactive line. There's the typical. I think I covered it. It's the hostage plate, but I like that they kind of thought outside the box and introduced kind of a more of a interactive reacting target to the buffalo. It's kind of, it adds a little bit more interest to your shooting. What do you think, Chad?
I love steel targets. They're just so much fun to shoot. But I could see something like this, shooting it with a rifle. Put it out. Maybe not the 26 Nosler, but like with the 308 or something at 300, 400 yards. Yeah, you can hear steel when you hit it, but with that little plate in there that swings back and forth, you're gonna know if you hit it, because the next time you look through the scope, you're going to see that now it's on it's on the butt of the, you know, animal, and or it's up where its heart should be.
Yep, and one thing I can definitely say about Action Target is that the way they engineer these targets, they do a really good job. I mean, there's no exposed hardware or seams or welds that could potentially take a hit from a bullet and compromise the integrity of the target. All of that's in the back and well hidden. So that ultimately leads to a steel target that your investment's going to last that much longer because it does not have the Achilles heel that maybe some other steel targets have with exposed hardware and hinges that could get hit by a bullet. So the target face, the hinges on the back are really well welded and well structured. They do recommend, like, if you take some white lithium grease and put them on the hinges, so that way, just with the plate that slides back and forth in this little hinge, it kind of lubricates that a little bit. That way, you get a little bit less wear and tear. You've still got metal and on metal sliding back and forth, and so, I mean, if you shot this thing, 1,000 times, you'd probably start to see a little groove or pocket where it's been sliding back and forth in the hinge. If you use white lithium grease, you've got less friction, and thus you're not going to see that wear over repeated successful shots. So that's my little tip if you're to get some of these. I think it's definitely cool. I think if you're running, like I said, a cowboy action, shoot, you got to have one of these because it'd be a whole lot of fun and something that you would get your members to definitely remember and potentially bring more shooters into the community because they see how awesome some of these targets are. And of course, it is angled correctly so that any what's the correct term? I just used it last week on the splatter, the spalding of the bullet is correctly deflected downwards. Go ahead, Chad. I interrupted you.
Oh, I was going to say, sometimes here, I don't shoot Old West, but they have a match locally once a month. But sometimes they run side matches, like they'll run like pistol caliber rifle side match or something, and that steel target would work great for something like that because it gives them something different to shoot than their normal round or square steel plates.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll have to let them know about that one.
So let's get right into the what's that?
Oh, I was gonna say I'll have to let the club know.
I was gonna say let's go ahead and go right into the. Oh, yeah. Well, if they listen to the podcast, they already know.
Hopefully they do.
Or they will know when the podcast releases.
Exactly.
So yeah, they should. Yeah, so let's go ahead and keep it rolling and get into the main panel of reviews. And I'm going to go ahead and let you go first since this isn't your first rodeo, and go ahead and talk about what you brought today.
Well, I brought, it's an Alien Gear hybrid inside the waistband holster. I'll hold it up, you guys, so if anybody's actually watching, they can kind of see. And I initially purchased it because, well, I needed a decent inside the waistband holster. And I'd read good reviews on it, so I figured, okay, it sounds like a good plan. Well, especially for the price, they're like $29.88 or something, and they charge like $6.95 shipping. So for $36, basically, you get a adjustable inside the waistband holster, which, has some problems, but nothing major. They, mold this outer shell, which the one plus they have about it is I don't know if you can see it, the little screws on it. They you can take them out and you can order just a shell in case you change firearms, or you can swap it out, I guess. If you send it back to them and tell them which new one you want, they will send you a new one, which I thought was pretty cool. The other advantage with them having this holster with the removable shells is you can adjust the tension on the holster itself. I don't know if you can see in there. It's kind of hard to see. There's a little rubber grommet inside there that you can tighten down or loosen up. They come with a whole bag of screws, grommets, an Allen wrench to adjust everything, which makes it really nice. They use metal belt clips is what comes standard. They fit an 1.5-inch belt, so if you have a fatter belt, you're kind of out of luck. They do offer leather belt hoops. I don't exactly know how much extra they are, but I think they're only, a few bucks extra. You can get it in tan, or you can option a black, which I opted for the tan. Just I figured it's inside the waist. Nobody's ever going to see it. I don't care if it's black, tan. It could probably be pink for all I really care, and I'd still wear it. It is, with these belt loops on it, it's adjustable for ride height, so you can move these up or down. I don't know if you can see the little hole, and there's a few holes here, and can't, depending on where you adjust it for. Like I have this one at the top, and this one kind of in the middle, and so I adjusted it so it's canted a little farther forward. That helps with it hiding the butt of the gun, or at least I've found that. But some people, everybody's different, so it works a little different that way. It was kind of nice that all the extra hardware that came with it, the adjustable tension. I still haven't found that the retention when it's inside your pants is excellent, but when it's outside, is empty. When it's just sitting there, you can get it to kind of fall out if you move it. But otherwise, like I said, when it's inside your waistband, it fits nice and snug. It's got good retention. Didn't have any problems with it, with the gun trying to fall out or anything. I pretty much wore it for a month straight. Good and comfortable. I did, however, have a few problems with their customer service. When I first got it, it came with the wrong shell for the wrong gun. So I emailed them, and the next day they sent out a new one. Well, a week later when it arrives, it's not still for the wrong gun. So then after that, it took me about 3 weeks before I could finally get it straightened out between the emails and everything to realize that, hey, it's the wrong one you guys sent the second time. So that was the only problem that I really had with it. The wait time on them right now is if you order one, it takes them about 4 weeks to get it to you, which, considering all the other holster makers take about 4 weeks to send you something also, I didn't think that was bad. I like the hybrid design. Some people don't like them. I tend to actually like that style. It seems to work good for me. I like the big, thick chunk of leather as opposed to plastic or something riding up against me. Huge. It's so inexpensive is probably the best thing about the holster. What you get for the price is pretty good. The changeable shells are really, really awesome on it. They have a forever warranty, so if something does go wrong with it, you just send it back to them, or my guess is they'd probably just send you spare parts. the adjustable angle, the adjustable ride height can play a part because, like I said before, everybody is different. It is tuckable, so if you have to wear your shirt tucked in, you can tuck it in behind these clips and kind of blouse it over it. I don't wear mine that way. I just never tuck a shirt in, so I never really have to. They do a really good job with the leather, and so I can't really say too much more about it. I'm trying to look at my review to
Did
see if
you did you give it a score?
I did. I gave it a 7. It's got good price, good comfort, lots of adjustments. Came with tons of extra hardware, and I gave it kind of negatives for the shipping times, and then because I had problems with customer service. Uh, I also gave it a plus because it seems like on their website you can get it for just about any gun made, which I thought was really nice. Uh, I didn't get it for anything out of the ordinary. Mine's for a car K9, so, and it's the full steel gun, so I didn't have any problems with carrying a full steel gun in it. It doesn't seem to, want to like bend out or anything like that, which was really a good thing because I've had holsters for that gun that even though they spec it at 24 ounces or something, it seems to weigh a lot more than that. And so that's the rating I gave it. I don't know if you can see in the picture. It's comes with the combat cut, which makes it so that you can get a full grasp on the firearm. Some people don't like that because then the handle's riding up against their skin. I actually prefer it, but that's just personal preference, as everybody knows.
Gun rubbing against my skin is just a comfort, really. It feels good. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
The thing is with this one, I've actually forgot that it's so comfortable. I forget it's there, except when you move and you can feel the butt of the gun kind of slide, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's still there.
Yeah, it looks pretty close to a Galco that I had. I think I still do have the King Tuck.
Yeah, or similar to those, or like a crossbreed style.
Yeah. How long have you had it? As far as is the leather pretty worn into your?
It is. I've been wearing it about a month, and I don't know if you can see, it's kind of bent, so so that it was fit me. You can kind of, the gun's been in and out. It kind of wore up here. It seemed like it took about 3 or 4 days to actually before I could notice that it was quite a bit more comfortable.
Well, it seems like a pretty good inside the waistband holster option, especially if it comes under some of the competition that's out there.
Right, and like I kind of thought they didn't make me send the extra shell back that they sent me, the 2 of them actually. So now I just have to buy a gun that fits it.
What was it for?
It was for the car PM9, which is the smaller version. It's shorter barrel, shorter hand grip.
But honey, I have to buy another gun. I've got this extra Kydex chassis for it.
I don't think she'd opt for that very well.
It doesn't hurt to try, my friend.
Yeah, I used to have a box of 357 Magnum that I had after I sold my revolver, and I kept it around for years saying, well, I got this ammo, I might as well buy another gun for it, but I never did.
Right.
Somebody gave me a free box, something else once, and I said, well, I need to buy a rifle now.
There you go. It's kind of like picking up brass at the range.
If you don't own it.
Yeah, exactly. what am I going to do with all this 40 brass? I might as well get a 40.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Pick up brass that you need.
So thanks for doing that review, man. That was really good.
Yeah, like I said, it wasn't my first rodeo, so I kind of have an idea of what to do now.
Well, now it's in your bloodstream, so you'll be going to the store and being, man, I can do a review on that, and all I need is an FRN credit card, something I can just swipe and write off, and man, I'd be cooking. I'd be doing a show almost every day.
That's right.
So, let's go right into my review. Something I did not buy this specifically for the podcast, but I'm bringing this up on the show because I've been using this thing like mad in the last 2 weeks. It is reloading related, so kind of segueing from my comment of picking brass off at the range. And this is from Hornady. It's the Hornady or Hornaday, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to say Hornady because I don't say it the other way. It's the Lock and Load OAL gauge, and then there's actually kind of two product reviews in one. They go together. So there's the OAL gauge, which stands for overall length, and then there's the bullet comparator. So two mouthfuls. And I've got the packaging right here, but I've got the products out of the packaging as well. So the OAL gauge comes in this long package. It comes in two configurations, straight and curved, and the reason that is because it's a rod, basically. I'll hold up the camera. It's just a rod, and you remove the bolt from your rifle, and you get a modified case that if you're looking around the reloading section and you're looking at all the Hornady stuff, you might notice that these, $5.99 for one cartridge, and you're thinking, well, what the heck's up with that? Basically, it's a modified cartridge, so I'll hold up the camera. The bottom of this case has been threaded to interface with this gauge. So this is a 308 modified case. It's actually a match 308 Winchester match case. This threads right onto the end of this gauge. Same thing if it was the curved gauge. The curved one would be if you had a rifle that you would be unable to insert something straight through the action by removing the bolt. If you had a rifle that the bolt didn't come out or the action was weird, and so this would be curved enough for you to kind of hook it around the side and get it into your chamber. So basically this, you take a bullet. So let's see, where'd my AccuBond go? Did I lose it? I think I lost it. Shoot, that would be an important part of my presentation. It's all right. So you have your bullet. With the case mouth has been opened up just a little bit. So you take whichever bullet you'd like to use. So for instance, the missing 180 grain Nosler AccuBond that has disappeared on me, I would insert it into the case and just let it fall right to the bottom of the case. So then I would take this and I'd kind of just slowly put it through my action just until the cartridge actually chambers. You don't want to push too hard because you can actually, what you're doing, I'm trying to do this the simplest way possible, is explaining why the heck are you doing all this to begin with. So a little bit of backstory. If you're reloading for a rifle, there's you're looking at your book. There's an overall cartridge overall length measurement, and that's from the tip of the bullet all the way to the back of the case. And that length differs depending on what type of bullet. It's a round nose bullet. Is it a Spitzer? Is it a ballistic tip? Is it a hollow point? So that length is provided to you by the manufacturer, saying that length will fit in almost every gun factory. So it's kind of like the least common denominator as far as length goes, because it's meant you can throw it in any gun, and it's supposed to chamber right and not cause any issues. The problem is that every single rifle's chamber is different. And if you're going after accuracy and reloading, you're going to want your bullet to be seated different than just the factory setting. One other issue is each bullet is different in profile. So, like, if you've noticed, Berger makes bullets that are a lot longer than, say, like a Sierra, or some Spear like soft points. They all have different contours, and so that's why the second part, or the second product part of this review, is actually the bullet comparator and insert kit. So basically, it comes with these little metal inserts, and I've actually already got one that's sitting on my my caliper. So basically, it's this little screw-on that's got a nice little knurled thumb screw, and then it's got a hole for an Allen screw, and this metal insert on top is specific for a bullet diameter. So this is the 308 insert that comes with this. It also comes with the other 5 inserts. There's a 223, or actually a .224, a 243, a 257, a 277, and a 284. So those are kind of just common chamberings. So for this one, I've got the 308 one. So this goes right onto your caliper. So you basically take this thumb screw, loosen it. You set this on one of the mandibles. I use the bottom mandible of my caliper, and then tighten it down there. So what this does actually is, instead of measuring from basically bullet tip to the case head, you actually stick your cartridge where the bullet is going inside of this insert, and that measures the ogive of the bullet. And the ogive, warning is I'm going to try and keep this as not as long-winded as possible. The ogive is where the straight surface of the case meets the kind of curvilinear surface, and so where those 2 points meet. So basically, when you take a bullet and you set it into this gauge right here, it stops on that shoulder where that ogive is. So then you first you've got to re-zero your caliper, when you've got this inserted. So now it's giving you an ogive measurement. So once you've got that, and you go back to this rod, insert it into your chamber, and then you actually push on this this plastic insert, and this actually will push the bullet out of the case, out through the neck. And when you've got this into your chamber and you push this, you've got to be very sensitive, ever so slightly, until you can just feel that bullet engage the lands, the rifling, and then you stop. And I'm going to give you a warning that if this is interesting to you and you're going to try this, have your cleaning rod at the ready, because chances are if you push too hard, that bullet will actually get stuck in your lands. And so then when you pull this out to take the measurement of it, your bullet will be gone. It's because it's stuck in the lands because you pushed just a little bit too hard. And actually, because of that, I actually take like 5 readings, and then I average out what I get. So in summation, what you're getting is you're measuring what's the longest you can seat your bullet in your case before it's touching the rifling. So what's the absolute longest that I can seat that bullet to where my bolt handle will seat, close, and lock up. So the advantage to this is, of course, you want to back off that a little bit, because you'll have over-pressurization if your bullet's jammed right in the lands and you fire, or you hit the primer, the gas expands, ignites, and your bullet's already shoved into the rifling. You're going to have a huge pressure spike. But you do this, you back off like 20 thousandths of an inch. Doesn't sound like much, but you do that consistently, and all of a sudden your reloads like that are much more accurate because they've got a consistent length. You're no longer just trying to fit the SAMI specs, the factory specs, and you've got that huge jump into the rifling from the chamber. So I've done this with my 22 250, my 308, and this week I'm working on the 300 Win Mag. My reloads have gotten much, much, much more consistent, and I've gotten better groups. We're talking a difference between potentially, you know, um, 3/4 sub MOA, but like going from 3/4 MOA to like 3/8 MOA. Definitely at and under half MOA groups by doing this. And before, in the past, if you were interested in doing this, there's only a couple ways to do it. You take a case, you cut a slit in the neck so that there's not as much tension. Then you put a bullet on there, and you slowly seat it, and then you pull it back out. But that wasn't really accurate. Other people would just take bullets and they'd seat it, and then they'd chamber it. And then if it chambered fine, they'd seat it a little bit shallower, and do it again, and do it again. And they do that dozens and dozens of times until they could just barely seat their bolt down. And that let them know they were right on the edge of that. And so then they didn't back off a little bit, and that's what would give them the streeting. This makes it a whole lot simpler. Really bummed I lost that projectile, because that was my showing you how that measurement works. Doesn't really work all that well when I don't have the bullet, but that's okay, because we'll pretend. We're in radio land right now. So anyway, you've stuck it in the chamber, you've pushed on this plastic end rod, pushed your bullet out to it just barely, it stopped moving. So then you tighten this thumb screw, which will prevent this rod from going anywhere. And then you want to pull this out. If your bullet's still in the case, you did good. So then next, you take your bullet comparator that's on your caliper, and this is a little bit of a tricky part, but you hold your case gauge, obviously, with your case pointing upwards, or else your bullet's just going to fall right out. So you actually want to hold your caliper upside down, I've found. And so you can see that there's kind of a recess. There's like a little notch right there. That relief is so you can set your caliper's top mandible right in that. So then basically you just would, your bullet's going to stop right on the ogive in that comparator, and then that would give you your overall length measurement. And so then you're going to want to subtract that number. So say you got 2.133. You would typically between 10 thousandths and 20 thousandths, maybe split the difference and do 15 thousandths of a subtraction. I've been doing 20 thousandths. So if you've got 2.133 inches, you would make that 2.113 inches. So then you just seat all your bullets to that. I'd actually seat the first one, crimp if you'd like to crimp your bullets, and then try and chamber it. If it chambers fine, you're good to go, and load the rest of your test loads up, fire them, see how well they do. If you're really into, which I'm not, but if you're really into like anal retentive adjustments, you can adjust that seating depth. What maybe your particular rifle likes the bullet closer to the rifling. That's what they call jumping the lands. How much of a bullet jump does that bullet have to get before it hits the rifling? Maybe it likes less, maybe it likes more. At least with these tools by Hornady, you can measure your max and then compensate for that. But I've found that it gives me a little bit more confidence in my reloading because I understand another factor of it that I really didn't think about, give all too much thought about. I would just look at the book and it says, okay, 308, 2 point whatever inches is the cartridge overall length. I just measure that. Oh, yep, hit it. Okay, good to go. You'll notice that when you buy factory ammunition, it's all going to be at that length, and sometimes you might have a gun that just cannot shoot accurately with factory ammunition. If you start to reload and you do this, all of a sudden you'll find out that you had a tack driver you didn't know you had in your gun safe. So basically, that's my as short as of an explanation I can give you on that. So these tools I've rated 8.5 because they're I really don't have much complaints. They do exactly what they're meant to do. The thumb screw on the comparator, you can actually take it off, switch it around to the other side, which lets you set it like offset of your caliper. So that's kind of a nice feature. If it's easier for you to measure your cartridge with it slightly off, depending on what you're shooting. If you're shooting a custom cartridge, or they do offer these modified casings in a wide variety. If you go on their website or go to brownells.com, use the affiliate link, you can actually purchase a number of kind of uncommon wildcats and whatnot. If you've got something that they do not offer a modified case for, you can actually send one of your cases to them, and they will, make a concentric threading of the bottom, and then open up the mouth a little bit for you to be able to use. So they'll modify your case if you want them to, for I forget the nominal charge, but it's in the instructions that came with this case gauge. So looking at some reviews of what other people are saying, they've found it was greatly improved their reloads as well. And especially if they were doing, kind of more of uncommon, unique cartridges, it was a great way for them to get the correct measurement out of that. As soon as I got this, I did like every single bolt-action rifle I have, and I did every single bullet that I have, because, if a 308, I want, 168 grain Sierra Match Kings, I want 175 grain. Maybe I want to try some Hornady VMAX or AMAX, 180 grains. The Nosler Accubons. All those different bullets have a different length from the end to the ogive. So using this in an afternoon and a couple beers, I was able to measure the length of all of those bullets. I write it all down in my log, and so that way, whenever I'm loading those cartridges in the future, I've already got my seating depth already measured out with this. So, bumped into my microphone. Yep, that's pretty much my review. As far as the costs, you can get them on Brownell's website. I got them I bought them locally at a Sportsman's Warehouse, and I guess the price tags are missing, but it was only about $30, between $30 and $40 for each one. So it's a little bit of an investment for both of them. Of course, you got to get your modified case as well. So of course, reloading is supposed to save you money, but you always end up spending a lot more on tools and components, stocking up for that rainy day. And so it's really nice that if this straight model doesn't fit your gun, you can get the curved model as well. I thought that was a really nice feature. So that makes sure that everybody, if they've got a rifle that you're not able to access from that point, it's kind of a nice thinking about them. So I'd say this is definitely targeted toward experienced reloaders, but the benefits for novices, this guy right here, I'm a complete reloading, I wouldn't say complete reloading noob, but I'm still a greenhorn, because obviously, it's got a long learning curve, and there's plenty of mistakes to make along the way, but this helps a lot. And the benefits are literally measurable, at the range on the target. So that's my review. If you're interested in these, definitely give them a check out at your local store or online.
I will add something to those. If you're using some rifle to use as a magazine, you may not be able to load it just off the glance because you are limited by magazine length.
Yep, that's actually a really good point. I'm glad that you brought that up. The maximum length that you find might not be able to fit in either if you've got a semi-automatic in your box magazine, or if you've got a bottom metal kit on your rifle, it still might not fit. Even if you've got a blind magazine, that still might be too long for that as well. So you might have to accommodate to maybe you just got a seat as long as you can to fit in that magazine, or, which isn't entirely uncommon, just load them one by one. I mean, if you're shooting a 223 and you want to load the 77 grain or the 90 grain longer bullets, and it won't fit in your magazine, maybe those are just going to have to be single fire for accuracy. So, thanks for bringing that up. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, I shoot a lot of boxed magazines, so I found that out, pretty quick.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you're striving for accuracy, and that's kind of what goes hand in hand with reloading, is how can you shave those extra hairs. This will definitely shave more than a few hairs when used correctly. I just found it frustrating that certain bullets have a certain profiles that are more prone to get stuck in that rifling. So I'd take like 5 measurements and I'd be super careful, and still I'd pull the gauge out and the bullet projectile will be stuck in the lands. So I just pretty much leave the cleaning rod in the barrel, just back it out, and so that when it gets stuck, I can just reach around and just tap it, and then the bullet would pop back out into the, out of the chamber. But definitely I think that it's improved my reloading and my accuracy. I mean, last group with my 308 that I shot, actually I did last week, and I did a test group. Of course, the 168 match Kings from Sierra did really well, like cloverleaf bullet holes. And that's got a lot to do with using Varget, using the Sierra bullets, but using this gauge and getting the length finely tuned, I think it was a major contributing factor in that. So maybe to modify or to addendum to my review, I'll load like 5 bullets of 308 with the same grains of powder charge and the same projectile, and I'll do one to the whatever SAMI specs of the factory overall length, and then I'll do one this way and see what the difference is. But I'm kind of waiting. I'm trying to get a Timney trigger for my Remington because the trigger is recalled, so I got to replace that trigger anyway. Might as well get a Timney, go straight to the top of get the best, as opposed to just sending it to Remington and then not having my rifle for a while. So
I think everybody who has one of those recalled rifles, seems like you hear everybody's going to just order a Timney trigger as opposed to send it back.
I would highly contribute that to the fact that Brownell's website for Timney triggers, they're all out of stock. They're all back ordered. So if I'm going to find one, I'm going to have to wait for Brownell's to get them in, or find one on a competitor's website, which I really hate to do because Brownell's is awesome. But I'm kind of debating between getting because they've got like straight triggers and then they've got curved ones, and I've never shot like a trigger that has just like a straight blade on there. But whatever I end up getting, I'll make sure to do a thorough review on the show and show you guys, because I'm sure there's a lot of Remington owners out there of the 700 that's been recalled that maybe haven't sent the rifles in, or don't know or don't care to do so because it hasn't had a misfire since and they haven't lightened their triggers or whatnot. But I'll do a Timney review, and maybe it'll help some of you guys make a decision on purchasing an aftermarket trigger as opposed to sending it back to the factory. So, deep breath, and moving on into the tech gadget or app section, I actually got another really cool one. Kind of relates to precision, or not precision rifle shooting, but just shooting a rifle. If you're not already aware of the Tracking Point scope, the company Tracking Point, they make a digital scope that kind of makes internal fine adjustments so that like you never miss, is kind of their mantra. But they've the scope actually has abilities to record your your footage and your reticle and your readings and all that, and wirelessly beam them to a storage device. Well, now they've got this Shot View app that interfaces with the tracking point scope. So the basically brings up the scope view in a heads-up display real time on the smartphone or your tablet. Because the scope, they call it the network tracking inside the scope that can stream that video live. So the benefits to this is you could be shooting with your, very, very expensive tracking point scope on your rifle, and your spotter, instead of right next to you with their spotting scope, they could actually just have their iPad or their iPhone and be looking at exactly what you're looking at. So then they can watch and live stream, and then you can also download it too. So if they've got their spotting scope as well as the iPad or the device, they can be looking at, say you're hunting, I don't know, pigs, right? Some boar down south, and you're wanting to pick out the big sow out of the group. So you're looking through your spotting scope and you're relaying to the shooter, okay, he's in the rear, he's just coming into the open now where nothing's obstructing and he doesn't have a piglet in the back behind him. And then you can look down at your iPad and make sure that, verify that yes, they see it and they're aiming at the right one. Maybe what you look at, you're reading, you look down at your iPad and they're aiming at the wrong one, and then you say, no, the one to the right, just to the right, and then you can see actually in real time them move their reticle over and aim at. So a little bit more, bells and whistles and high-tech bells and whistles between a shooter and their spotter. But part of the reason why I found this little technological feat is there's actually interface with Google Glass, which I don't think it's going to be civilian available. But basically, Google Glass is obviously the advanced glasses that's got a little display in it. They're working on privately an app with the scope, so you could actually blind fire. I mean, you can point your scope in one direction, be looking in a different direction, and you can see in the eyepiece of Google Glass your reticle and what your scope's aiming at. So it has potential military applications, kind of like a corner shot where you can mount your Glock into a little contraption, turn it 90 degrees, put it around a corner, and you've got a little camera that shows you what your Glock's pointed at, so you can engage the targets behind cover. This actually allows you not only engage longer range targets from behind cover, but you're not actually having to look at your rifle. There's not a video camera mounted on your scope or your gun. It's all heads up right here. So there's a whole bunch of application potential for that. Having a rifle that's way above cover or whatnot, or you're spotting for somebody else. Or another thing is you can beam this to multiple devices. So if you're doing, I don't know who does this, but if a group hunt, multiple hunters, right, you can have your shooter and everyone can kind of see what he's aiming at and communicate. I mean, do you see any more kind of specific applications for this, Chad?
No. I mean, it just seems like something super cool to have.
That's true.
I mean, I can understand the wanting, your spotter to be able to say, no, you're not looking at it right. I've seen, I've had that problem with friends of mine before saying, it's over here about to your right, but you're looking through a different scope than them, so you can't really see what's going on. But with that app, it would be pretty cool. You could say, oh yeah, you got to move right, like you said, to the next pig or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a tracking point, you've got the money and you're into expensive toys, so this little app would be something that you'll want to get a hold of. But not all of us can afford a tracking point app, so I am sorry for bringing that up to your attention, folks, because I know a lot of us Joe Blows can't afford something and then kind of get a little disappointed in, oh, I listened to my favorite podcast this week, but he brought on some expensive stuff and made me feel bad about being poor, so, or just not poor, sorry. Being responsible, having a budget, having kids, having mouths to feed, and not expendable income on these awesome, awesome toys. So I just thought I'd let you guys know that it's out there, something for you to talk about at the water cooler at your gun range. So if you want to see that, go to Tracking Point's website, tracking-point.com/innovations/apps/tracking point. And actually, if you do at the end of that /shot view, you guys should just on their main navigation hit on innovations and then apps, and then shot view will be in there. So it's not available until actually it says spring 2013, so it should be available. Maybe it's just they've got a separate Tracking Point app that's meant for downloading videos and updating the firmware on your scope and configuring it and whatnot. Android users, you're not getting left behind. There is a version for Android as well as Apple. So there you go. So let's get right into listener feedback in closing. So Love to Play. In fact, his review, I entered it in the drawing for the Berettas this week, and this was, I believe, Richard. So he won with this review. So he said, I listened to all the Firearms Radio podcasts out there, and this one is the best one. And best of all, you don't have Peter Palma on your show. Keep up the great work. I'm not lying. I did not make that up. It literally says, best of all, you don't have Peter Palma on the show. So, Peter, do not come after me. I'm not making that up. I'll even leave a screenshot on the show notes. I would love to have Peter on the show if you wanted to review his MS cleaning kit that he's been, pushing out there. I think that they probably talked about it enough on all the other podcasts. It's probably got enough out there, unless you guys haven't heard of it. Peter, if you're listening, come on the show and we'll talk about it, and we'll see if I lose any listeners by having you on or not. So in closing, listen to all the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network, specifically Fat to Fit HQ. If you go to www.fat2fithq.com, you can listen to Carol talk about different weight loss programs, different techniques, and some fun and cool tips and tricks for your regime of exercise and eating healthy, and specifically tuning it to some firearms training as well. Because everyone's tried going to the gym and doing your the Taibo back in the 90s and all this and that, but when it relates to firearms, there's a little bit of that added interest that keeps you going, because you love this sport and you want to be healthy and active and be proficient at this sport or this lifestyle. So go over to fattofithq.com and subscribe and listen. Make sure you send questions or comments to podcast@firearmsinsider.tv or myself, cross@firearmsradio.tv. Remember to subscribe and leave us an iTunes review. Check out all the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network at www.firearmsradio.tv/iTunes. And be sure to check out the Firearms Insider page for new reviews every week and further industry coverage. So thanks again for joining me on the show, Chad. I'm sorry that a little bit long-winded this episode. My review was kind of lengthy, and I don't like listening to myself speak, but sometimes it's a must. So I appreciate you coming on the show and being a guest panelist and giving us that awesome review.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, you're always welcome on the show next time you do a review. And if you're a listener and you want to be like Chad here and come on the show, I promise to let you talk. In fact, if I can get a couple of you listeners, I'll let you guys do all the talking, and I won't talk hardly at all. I'll just do the intro, and you guys can definitely pitch in there. But But if you're interested, just shoot me an email. We'd love to have you on. This is a community effort, and there's nothing better than hearing like-minded folks talk about guns. So, as always, have a good week, shoot safe, and I'll catch you on the next episode. See you, Chad.
See you, Ryan.